Hello everyone, we are back for real, I think. Anyone let me know in the chat if you can actually hear my voice. I think it's because I plugged in my webcam after I had my Streamlabs OBS open. Which is weird that would just make it not, make audio, but here we are. We live in this world, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. Sigrid, how's it going? Thanks for that confirmation, Demo Rose. Okay, I want to go through these names faster this time. All the YouTube subscribers. We've got Matthias Pinheiro, Sandra Mija, Elizabeth Dobbs, Miguel Angel, Barragon Sanchez, Sievers, Whippa, Salty, Hinderregger, Snixy Man, Venapat, Nigsung, HL Gueds, Enrico Sousa, Vintamila, Vishnu Aramula. I'm so sorry, guys. I just believe this is from the heart of someone who wants to legitimately thank you. Butchering your name is not part of the thanks, but just my recognition that you're along for the ride. Hopefully is something. Marcos Couto, Yosef Urso, Brittany Pronesti, Colin Riley, Eric Kane, Simone Marta, and Ralph Merced. There we go. Thanks, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Ben Morta is here. Excellent. Okay, so, as I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by my technology not working at all, look at this. We're almost done. We've got a pose that I'm pretty happy with. We've got all the details pretty close. There is one major area that's bothering me, and that is his bottom eyelid here. This one works great. It's being folded as it, as the eyelid pushes down, it's folding the skin all up. I have less of a good idea of what to do when the skin is pulled up for a closed eye. And honestly, I don't know how I'm going to solve that yet, but probably I'm going to start by just kind of smoothing it all out and approaching it from there. I think I had some cleanup work I wanted to do around the top of the head as well. If you'll recall from our last episode, I had to bring this bumpy texture further out onto the forehead. It used to be more of this kind of fish scales going all the way back, but then this looked like a weird headband hump. So I think that's fixed. The design reason that he's got all this wrinkled up mass here is because he's got kind of a turtle neck head sort of thing, so he can pull his head back down into his body quite a bit, and it just kind of rolls the hump up over his forehead, and then his ears kind of fold down over his eyes, so he can kind of look just like a lumpy sack sitting there. Dottie B, welcome. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to say out loud again, welcome to Demo Rose and Sigrid for stopping by, hanging out in my living room, on my couch, on my lap, while I do Zbrush. Okay. I'm going to start with this eye, because that's what's bothering me the most. After I get all the details down, it'll be time to start chopping him up like for the butcher, i.e. the 3D printer. So that should be interesting, as I've never done that before. I'm sure it'll go super smoothly and perfectly the first time. Okay, so here's what I like. I like that I'm continuing these ridges. He's got these kind of fan ridges motif going all around. Brings the eye in, you follow those lines, they come in right to his eyeballs. It's perfect. That's great character design. Good job, Josh. And as they come into the face, it makes sense that they're pulling up around the eye. Maybe I feel like See, and the lines are not, you know, on this side they're very crunched together because they're rolling around over each other. When they're not, I would expect to still see some amount of creases, in the same way if you look at the inside of your finger or your palm, you know, when you open it up, there's still those indications on your hand of where it wrinkles. So I don't want it to just be perfectly smooth. That would not make sense either. So honestly, I'm having trouble diagnosing what the problem is, which sometimes can tend to put a boy in a state of paralysis, just like, well, I don't know what to do, so I won't do anything. Rather than that, you know, that's the beauty of digital sculpting here, is I've got this saved. If this was clay and I had to wipe it out, I know I'm losing work. In this case, I can just experiment. If I don't like it, I can go back to this version. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna step it down a couple levels so it smooths out easier. I've got this weird bulge here on account of where his cornea conceptually lives, but not literally, because of the illusion that I'm trying to strike with this particular little sculpture trick where you actually dig in to make a dark pupil and cornea. So I need to be careful not to completely destroy that. On the other hand, it's kind of at a weird shearing angle, I feel like. Which makes me wonder, maybe if I beef that up a little bit so it's not quite as scooped. It's tricky because is that messing up the profile of the cornea? I don't know. Let's find out. Hollywood celebrities and stars. Do they know things? Let's find out. Oh. So you can see I'm pretty much recreating what I had already. I think there's a slight difference in that I'm kind of pulling the masses apart as they enter the bottom eyelid area. And so maybe, just maybe, see there's this distance between these ridges now. That might be all that I needed. Also, since I was doing all this work on subdivision level 4, when I pop back up to 6, the details that I sculpted on there will come back, mostly. And so that gives me a pretty fast indication of if this was doing the trick. Oh, this is good. This is good. So the problem I had before, I'm just going to draw some really big ugly lines just to get this across, was that I was perceiving this ridiculous straight ridge there, right? That was not working for me. But if it kind of branches out from the bottom corner of the eye, then that breaks up that line. And it looks like smoothing this out so it's more of a plane rather than I think that also helps. How about that? Sorry, I know he looks extra freaky without his eyes and bottom lip. I don't mean to scare you guys. Okay, so if it continually peels off, like so, that might be the trick that I need. Yeah, that feels more like I'm getting that little crow's feet kind of wrinkles more naturally. Like that, yeah, Heather is overly concerned about crow's feet. Yeah, so when his eyes are open really wide, it compresses this fold and kind of covers up the natural flow. And so here would be the natural flow of it. I just need to make sure that I'm not putting thick grooves in there. That would betray the whole, like, it getting smoothed out as it gets raised up. I just don't want it to be smoothed out 100%. It needs to be like 80% smoother on a tertiary form, not a quadriformary form. Oh, that reminds me, if any of you guys know who Simon Lee is, actually let me bring that up. That's kind of a cool event that happened recently. Whoa, fire tornadoes are cool, unless there's one close to me.
My brother's mom lost their house in the
Oh, it's not cool at all. So, this is Simon Lee. I know him back from 14 or 15 years ago when he was the technical guy who was running the Shiflett Brothers forum back before Facebook and stuff. If people wanted to talk about particular issues, they went to specific forums. And so there was a forum for sculpting that was kind of... It was the Shiflett Brothers were the people who ran it, but the guy who actually did all the technical back-end work to make the forum work was this guy, Simon Lee. And it turns out he's like one of the best sculptors in the world. He just happened to be running the website. Come on, go to where your sculptures are. And so the... Yeah, it was over the past, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. He's just kind of come out of in the sculpting scene. Well, the monster sculpting scene. I can't speak to like fine sculpting, but as like just, oh my God, look at what this guy does. It's incredible. I want to find some close-ups of his work. Oh, that's a Shiflett Brothers piece. Yeah, I don't know anyone who captures movement and flow in sculpture like he does. And anyway, it was cool. He came to ArenaNet this week and gave kind of a 3-hour talk and demo. He was making like a guy on top of a dragon. And yeah, it was cool. That's all I have to say. It was cool. Simon Lee's a nice guy. He's got good thoughts about art and creativity, and there you go. Someone to look into if you like sculptors. He was saying one of the things that he really likes about traditional sculpture over Zbrush sculpture. He was demonstrating, he just started with this aluminum wire armature, humanoid figure. He just globbed the clay on to get the basic shapes in, and then he started balancing it on one foot and with the arms out, and then put like a heavy shield in one arm, and what he was showing is that because he leaves the armature loose and wobbly, he actually has to balance the character in a way that you don't get in CG because you're not working with real physics. Seems like a plugin that could probably be done. Like, it'd be pretty cool. You can say, hey, Zbrush, make this nice render with shadows. This is what I'm doing now. And it'll be like, okay, I'll render this with shadows for you and slightly better materials. Okay. And then there could be another button that's like, apply gravity to this, and then you could specify the density of the material or something. That'd be fun. Hey Zbrush, why don't you do that? It's not like you don't got better things to do. Alright, well, I'm just going to see what happens if I just coat this guy with scales. Where it's at. So I think having the scales kind of flow in this upward angle direction will also help break up. So yeah, I had the scales going very much in a line parallel to the eyelid previously, and I think that was another thing that was causing the problem that I was trying to diagnose. Also make sure my scales are the proper scale. So let's look over here. Yeah, it looks like they're a little smaller than they should be. So a little closer to that. Yeah. Alita, welcome.
Hi, Alita.
I was just at Alita's sister's wedding yesterday down in Vancouver, Washington. It was a beautiful ceremony, or so I'm told. We thought it was at a different place than it actually was, so we ended up getting there after the service.
It's also a very quick service.
Yes, it was
So
between 5 and 10 minutes apparently.
Getting there after instead of in the middle was probably better.
Yeah. You don't want to interrupt a 5-minute service. Serena is a very non-extrovert, so I think she was highly motivated to get it over with as fast as possible. Yeah, I think I kept meaning to say to you, Alita, oh my god, your boots are so cute. And I never got around to it, so.
Yeah, I took a picture of her, because her
I took a picture of her boots.
and her tights and her boots, because I love her.
Oh, yeah, you guys kind of did have a similar thing going on.
I love her boots. Although I think I would.
You can't actually wear boots.
I would break something in, even though they had a tiny heel. I mean, like an aggressive heel.
I'm wanting to slowly decrease the size, the scale of these scales as it gets down into these little tendrily areas. And then where it starts to get mushy, I think I'm gonna go in and clean up that line work a little bit. Don't want to get too aggressive with it or it starts to really stand out. Daddy B is asking, have I ever heard of Jim McKinsey? He is a sculptor. It doesn't ring an immediate bell. Let's find out. Jim Oh, he does these guys. Yeah, yeah. Sculpture Geek. Is that? Yeah. Watched quite a few of his. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how much this looks like the costume kids I was developing about 12 years ago. Yeah, this is a sculpture in epoxy clay, like the stuff I've been using on Beaumark recently. Yeah, this guy goes all out, doesn't he? Yeah, cool. Wait, you got another horse last week? What? How did you get another horse? Did you replace Sononi, or do you now have two horses? And once you have two horses, does that officially make you a horse admiral? Alright, this is definitely feeling better to me. Not quite sure how I feel about this little area. I don't think it's wrong. Two horses now, Sononi and Samara.
That's what I heard. Samara knows like I heard her say it yesterday, and I was, well, it was really loud in that house.
Yeah.
I was a little confused and I forgot to ask.
And almost Frisian. Like, what is that? What is the breed? Is it like she just shares aesthetic traits with Frisians, or actually has some Frisian in the bloodline? Also, he or she? She is a Canadian horse, has a big fluffy mane. It's nice to know if I need to reshoot my Red Dead Redemption video. I now have someone who has awesome horses.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. I could ride both of them at once.
Yeah.
Just one foot on the stirrup of each, doing the splits between them. Barrel rider, how's it going? Riding on them barrels. I mean, that's a stunt you can do, right? Is ride two horses at once. You probably do it at circuses and stuff. Yeah. Hold on. For some reason I'm tearing up. It must be this beautiful music for the thought of riding two horses at once. It's just so beautiful. Phone ringing. Your phone is ringing on Samara is faster and taller. I believe so. Yes. I'm pretty sure you can talk. You're awesome at talking. Let's see. Here is Alita and a sister on lay horses. So this one is Serena, and you're on Samsara. What? Samara. What is Samara from? I assume that's a character from a book. Yeah, cool. Love black horses. No, I know it's Melissa. I was asking about the. Oh, she came with the name. Okay. Yeah, that works well. Samara and Sinoni. I'll have to name a spitter Samara at some point, so you can keep the theme. How old is Samara? And did you look in her mouth? That's the important question. Years old, so middle-aged for a horse. Samara firmly believes that only cookies go in her mouth. No? Okay. Was she fairly local to the area? Or is she literally from Canada? Figure out what that smell is. Oreo and creamer. That's neat.
Oreo and coffee.
What kind of creamer is it? Coconut? Yeah. That's nice. She is from a breeder in Oregon. She was owned by a friend at the barn, but they needed to sell her for personal reasons, and they're happy that I got her. I have them all fooled. They think I'm a good person. Ooh, very close. She was a long con. Okay, so horse didn't even need to move. She just has a different rider now. That's nice.
Oh yeah, Lisa, I was gonna ask you, is the foreman, are they closer to the barn or gonna be further? I forgot. I think I've asked you this too.
Alita says it's about the same drive. I have to take a different route.
Mm. Oh, that's good.
Oh man, I'm tired. I did not get to sleep last night. I was overly fascinated by the geology lecture I was watching. I watched like 4 lectures. It's a series from the teaching company that I've watched at least once, probably twice before, but it's been several years. And it's always interesting how, like, I'll just forget stuff that then I'll wonder about from time to time. And so every time I go back and rewatch the series, I'm like, oh, that explains that. I can't believe that I actually heard the explanation several times before and still didn't remember.
So you're a little more like normal people where we don't remember, retain as much information?
Just a little
You have
bit.
it so rough, like, you know, you retain, you formans. You guys retain a lot.
Alright, Alita, you take Pumpkin outside. And yes, I did do a lot of driving yesterday. Drove down to Vancouver, stayed there a couple hours, drove back to Seattle.
And then when we got back,
Went for a walk.
And it was
That was a cold walk.
very cold. It's like almost 11 or something. 10:30.
Yeah, it's about 10:30.
It looked like it did something.
Is that a heat pack? this week has been pretty exciting for Talafar. I complained out loud online on the social media that, well, not really a complaint so much as just like, oh my god, I'm really freaked out right now because the one person who was giving us the most like beta read and feedback told me that she was under the impression it was like a middle grade book, like a book for kids in grade school. And so I automatically translate because she had only read the first 7 or 8 chapters so far. I was under the impression that it must be because it's about Beaumark growing up, so he's a kid and teenager in all those chapters. And then she had to tell me like 3 times before I actually heard it. It was like, no, it's the style that it's written in that gives me that impression, not the content or the characters or the plot, which is scarier to me. But I had a theory, which, you know, we had an editor fairly early on, several years ago, that thought it was really important that we add these these chapters of Beaumark being young, because he just like couldn't care about the character or didn't care enough about the protagonist, like about his pain and trauma and adventures and all this kind of stuff. So we added those things, and I think it was a great decision. Like I love these chapters. I think they're amazing. However, they were also written after he advised us to use, he said, for the young adult market, which is probably what this would be the most popular in, because, you know, it's fantasy action adventure. You need to use short, punchy sentences. I don't know the exact words, but that's more or less what it comes down to. Short paragraphs, short sentences that are like bursts of thought, because it keeps the brain stimulated more than long, drawn-out stuff. So, yeah, when my mom wrote those chapters, she was taking his advice, and I think ended up accidentally in that kind of a style. And I think she did some cleanup of the other stuff to get it to somewhat match that. But it's not that big a deal for it to change a little bit, since it is literally following, you know, it's a tight third person, so it's following Beaumark's cognitive and emotional development. So it makes sense that things get more sophisticated as the book goes on. And so my theory was confirmed mostly when my beta reader got to the chapters that had been written a long time ago, before the advice from that editor. And she was like, yeah, suddenly it seems like a lot more of a grown-up book, like more sophisticated and da-da-da. So now we're in the process of my mom's going through the first several chapters, and we'll kind of undo some of that simplistic, stylistic decisions that she made based on his advice, which I don't think was really the best advice. There's this thing about writing to market that's really big in the indie publisher, well, probably all publisher scene right now, writers in general, that says pick your target demographic, see what's popular in there, and do exactly that. And I just think that's just such a crappy thing to tell someone with an artistic vision. On the other hand, if you're someone who wants to make money, it's certainly not bad advice, and there's probably a balance to be found in there, right? Do your own thing, but also be aware of the pros and cons of your own thing and how closely it fits into, you know, what is currently popular and trending. Because it's like, if you want to make a living as a sculptor or an artist or whatever, you're best, or as a freelance, someone not working for a big company, then you're gonna have to do Marvel characters and Disney characters and Star Trek erotic fan fiction character. You know what I mean? There's a massive market for characters who are recognizable, and a very small market for original stuff. Because it turns out human brains like things that they're familiar with. Who would have thought? And so, yeah, I think we kind of overcorrected with writing to market in those first several chapters. I think that will get undone and fixed. But the exciting thing about this week was the result of my worrying out loud online was I got several people actually interested enough to pitch in. Like on the last stream, Damon and who else? Was it Sigrid? Someone else volunteered to give it a read too, and Damon's been given really great feedback. I don't think I've seen any of Sigrid's on the document yet, but follow through on that sort of thing is almost always pretty low, because it turns out reading is hard and takes a long time. So I certainly don't blame anyone who's like, yeah, I'll help you out, and then they start doing it and they're like, oh wait, now I can't watch Castlevania Season 2. I've got to read this thing. And they're like, never mind, peace out. Totally fine, totally acceptable. When you're not getting paid, you have absolute autonomy to decide what you're going to do with your time. But then randomly, I came across a woman on Twitter. I think it was a friend of mine who tweeted her. She had some controversy in the Twitch scene because she has some kind of I don't know if it's a diagnosed disease or something, but she has like massive fatigue and pain constantly, blah blah blah, and she talks about it, or had talked about it on her channel on a regular basis, and then a bunch of dopes who were other Twitch streamers decided that she was a fraud and she was making it all up. Probably goes back to that whole like, well, you don't look sick sort of thing, And it became a big drama controversy that drove her off of the platform, and she ended up with all these threats and blah 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 blah. So anyway, I commented on her thing and said sorry about that. I have a wife who also has this problem of she doesn't look sick, and so people just don't give her the same kind of sympathy that you give someone who looks sick and in pain.
Not sympathy, it's like...
Not sympathy.
I don't want sympathy.
Right.
It's just like...
Recognition,
like, oh, you're not, but not like a faker. I don't need sympathy, but it's like, okay, but also...
Yeah, don't call me a liar, right?
Yeah,
that's what it goes like.
Don't act like I'm whining or complaining, because if I'm sharing, it's probably to help you know where I'm at.
Yeah.
Because I need help. I might need some help.
Well,
that's all it's about.
And also, you're just discovering all these other people and actually helping them through their painful stuff and with validation, and so like the way you talk about your illness online is amazing, and it's brave, and it's super helpful to a lot of people, obviously, and that needs to be normalized. So anyway, it turns out she's an incredible editor, and her curiosity was picked when she followed me back on Twitter, and yeah, so she's been going through and giving like super awesome feedback as well. So yeah, I've been really, really happy. I've had a mood day of 4, like 2 days this week, because man, when good progress and good critique is happening that I feel is actionable and we could do to actually make this book actually better, and I become more confident that it's going to be well accepted, and there's not going to be something that just comes out of the blue and we're like, whoa, I can't believe we screwed that up or didn't see that coming. The more beta readers you have, the more likely it is you're going to catch that stuff. So all the 12 years of work that we've put into this. Not obviously not full-time work, but it has been something I've been plugging away at for a dozen years. It's just incredibly satisfying to be getting near that end point and getting traction on feedback that we can do that actually will make it very professional, compete with all the other stuff out there in the market, not just be like this homebrew kind of, wannabe book. So anyway, very exciting, happy week for me. Alita says maybe what you're looking for is understanding.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I guess what does that mean?
I mean, all humans want human connection and to be trusted and accepted, and you know what I mean? So.
Except that there's value in the stuff that I'm going through just as much as there's value in the stuff that they are or aren't going through. You know what I mean? Like, we, especially coming from I'm coming from a place where, I've always been in pain, but I thought everyone kind of was. Like, it was normal. Like, I thought it was normal too, right? And then now, starting like from March, finding out, oh geez, you actually have major injuries. And most of these major injuries didn't even cause pain. So it's like there was no way to avoid it. So when I have to be careful or whatever, and like coming out of working at Starbucks for all these years and having to constantly try to and not even earn validation, because I was never going to get validation or even care, or definitely not sympathy from coworkers or management. They don't care. It's a hard job. They just want it done. Roll your eyes. It's because I've had like a lot of bad people in management through the years there, but so that made me like shut up and ignore stuff too, which ultimately caused more injuries. And I don't think that's not. I just don't want that happening to me ever again. And I want to be strong enough to like learn how to say, okay, you know what I mean, like respectfully say to them, I feel like this isn't important to you, but when you respond to me as if I'm whining, that's wrong and unacceptable when I'm asking for help. And I was able to verbalize that one time before I was about to quit, and then there was all this bad stuff going on with one of the managers, and I was like, you know what, actually, I want my sabbatical, and that's how I got on it so fast, because they didn't want me going to HR. So that was their way to do that. Still went to HR.
Not that it's ever going to help, but...
Not that it's going to do anything, but I still went to HR, because more and more stuff, like...
bad abusive people need, you need to do your due diligence to alert the people who have the power to change it. They're probably not going to change it, but you still need to go through the process.
I'm worried about, the culture, the morale has been so destroyed over the last 5 years in that place. It's heartbreaking to me, because I love my job, and it's not the company. The company is far away. They're not there on the floor level. They're not there with these people that they hire, because they're not aware of their policy and how it's getting...
How it actually impacts how you do your job and how you interact with your
Exactly, and they're wondering why,
customer.
And now, getting rid of all the mechanisms that they've had that were really great mechanisms for keeping accountability, to show direction over, expectations, and how to work with the managers you know, from barista all the way up, supervisors, managers, their managers, up, 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 making sure that everyone is following this path of like, you know, doing well, but as a whole and supporting. They took away all of those mechanisms about 3 years ago, and it got, I mean, there's no incentive, there's no reward, there's no, what's it called? Something bad. Consequences if you're not doing your job or whatever, and, you know, ultimately that makes everyone powerless. And it was disgusting. So, I am pretty hopeful, though. Actually, I have a new manager. A new manager came in while I've been gone, and the good news about this is, you know, while anyone could talk to the manager that's coming in, like, oh, they're so good, blah blah blah, and you're like, yay, and then you're like, whoa,
Yeah, it happened to you like 3
this
times.
is a psychopath. Okay, like legit psychopath who was heard in the bathroom saying, I just don't care about people. I try, but yeah, I just don't really care about people. I try, but oh well. I mean, yeah, that was psycho. But then but this person who's been there, she has experience. The only busier you can really get from a store like ours, and our store is just a regular store except we're in a tower, like in a business tower, the lobby, so we are exceptionally busy. Thousands of regular customers, well, probably about 500 now. It's definitely gone down the drain. But she came from a drive-through. She's been managing drive-through and successfully. And Starbucks corporate brought her in because we need help. And for something that should have it pretty easy for a store to like have it pretty easy for their customer base and whatever, they were losing a lot. And it wasn't making sense. They could come in and just talk to the people that have been here even there like for a year or two. But anyways, they brought this person in, and from the people who, like 2 people that still work there, that were there when I left, I'm hearing great things. And this person is standards, and it is something that we have not heard. So she follows a code of accountability, which is what all businesses need.
That's what you've been asking for
That's
forever.
all I've been asking.
Like, you get punished
I get
whenever
punished
you're
if-
like, this is not standard.
If the coworkers are that, I mean, we've had some, very mentally troubled partners there, which is really sad, because if you need help, your manager and management team, supervisors as well, should come together and help. But no, all the burden went on to the 3 people who knew what to do going on. And I literally kid you not, so many times I was placed, well, Heather, here's the timer, so you're going to be wearing, if you've ever seen those little timers that go off every 8 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes depending on the store and busy. That is a very non-stop busy cycle of doing all the stocking, all the brewing, all this stuff, right? On top of, they handed that and they're like, you're doing registers and barring. And I was the only person there. And I'm like, and then I have literally 5 people come in line. That's 3 drinks going. And it's like,
and this is because they just
and
won't
I had
train the
a
other
manager
people
and a
appropriately.
supervisor just sitting in the back. While the other partner was on a break, gone somewhere. And I was like, I really need help. And they looked at me like, oh my gosh. I'm like, oh my, I'm not whining. They rolled their eyes. You know what I mean? And that is why I was like, okay, do you want me to go to HR? Or are you just going to give me a sabbatical? Like, I'm done with this place. Like I need to get out of here until, and I knew there was something going on with my body. I just didn't know how bad. And it turns out it was really bad with my body. So don't ever wait for desperation, whether it's a job or your body. Listen to the signals, but I guess it's hard to find. It's not so much just people, doctors to validate or listen.
Yeah.
My God, I've been having scans done for like odds and ends, whatever, and because I'm relatively thin, I guess, other parts have come through on the scans where the radiologist marks notes and sends a report to the doctor, And a few years ago, it was like some sort of chest x-ray or something, came back and, I think they were checking bronchitis or something, but it noted that, like, 2 cysts on both kidneys, inside each kidney. And I never heard about it until randomly, a few months ago when I went to cardiologist, and he's like, for some reason I have none of your images, but I just see kidney cysts. I'm like, what? So now I have to go get that checked out, and that has been ignored for a long time. So anyways, getting doctors to listen, see the whole picture, that's hard. So how can you come through with an attitude like, well, I just need you to validate me, even though I don't know anything? Well, good luck. It's hard to have that and to have that confidence if you don't have a doctor who will even validate or just tell you or explain.
Yeah, most doctors they just see your symptoms, they put them in a checkbox, and they say, well, this medication is for that symptom.
Oh, that's not my part of the body. Yeah. I don't do that part, so I can't really say anything. It's like, yes, you can. You went to med school for like 8 to 10 years.
Other doctors.
Yeah, you could call somebody. You could call my doctor and say, hey, you need to pay attention to this. Like, but no. So crazy.
The body is a crazy, complicated, delicate, interacting system with all the pieces and parts affecting each other. It's a lot like in game design. Like if the artists didn't talk to the designers and they didn't talk to the programmers, and we were just all kind of doing our own thing, like our game would really suck.
And then wondered why it's not working.
That's why healthcare for most people really sucks, because doctors have no incentive to like get together with your other doctors and be like, hey, let's come up with a consistent theory that explains all the things going on. I guess because most patients don't need that, But, people out on the edges of the bell curve of health do need that. And they're all pretty much just left out to dry because they're not easy like everyone else.
The thing with the cyst that they said I had, the radiologist said I had, and the fact that no doctor even jumped on it, which is weird because it's super rare apparently, like it's congenital, it can cause issues, but they usually don't find it until autopsy. They're always surprised that somebody had it. So because usually it takes specific imaging to really dig deep and find it.
You have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, but mine, whatever, like the view and like again, thin, who knows, whatever, it came through. And even, so you would think something rare would stick out to a doctor, but honestly, the doctors are so busy too. I mean, the insurance companies and then,
a lot of them have mandates, like, you really shouldn't be spending more than 15 minutes with
a
patient.
And then even the Healthcare Act that went through, it added so many codes that they spend so much time doing paperwork and notes and all this stuff. Most of the time that they spend for a patient is not with the patient. It is about doing all this other stuff. And so because they're kind of working, I think they're operating more in like a scanning, like when you scan a book or page, you get the gist of it. I think because they're not looking for it, when those rare things should stop or stand out, they don't even see it because their brain isn't used to seeing. So it's just gonna be wrong. Yeah. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Wait, are you a doctor?
No, I just play one.
Play one on the internet.
Yeah.
And to your other doctors, and you have to educate them on something they should know already.
Yeah. They're like, what? I've never heard of that. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, but they're busy. It's not like they're evil. It's not that insurance companies are evil. It's not that. We just have a system that is I don't know. I mean, honestly, being a doctor or specialist or primary care, it's a dying profession because how much debt you go into,
Yeah,
and then you get
never
out,
hope to pay it off.
and then you have to pay it off. But somehow, when you start, you don't make a ton of money, and a lot of that money goes to, and they actually barely make a cut of what you pay per visit, but they have overhead and they have staff. And so usually they have to join up with a hospital or something to help cover that overhead stuff. And even then, they're still barely making any money. And you think about it, they have families too. They might have more of a burden because they have a debt that is like substantially insane. I think doctor offices, you know, I think a really valuable thing in hospitals too would be to hire a group of patient advocates, but for their staff, right? And that they go in and they look over things, and they, even if they go in and sit with the patient and talk to the patient for a little bit and just kind of like get some, because patients will eventually say the right things that doctors need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that they don't know the right words, they don't know the right lingo, or or it's hard to get them to open up in the first place. So yeah, I think that could help, but that would just be another cost.
Aletha, you definitely don't make wannabe books. I think you took probably the better path, which was you did as you learned, right? Like I've seen you say that it's kind of painful looking back at your first books, knowing how much better you are at it now. And yeah, I think I'm taking the path of like, no, I want it to be perfect before I release the first one. And
10 years later.
Yeah, and well, 12 years later.
Okay, and 12 years later,
we're almost out. So.
And then now having to catch up and like, oh shoot, that whole childhood thing. Like, yeah. This is a major, possibly major. Although you and your mom seemed to make some progress yesterday, huh?
Yeah, I sat down with my mom yesterday because we were at her house down in Vancouver and was able to actually, okay, here's how you open the Word document I send you in the email. Here's where it gets saved. Here's how you make sure it can be open for edit. Here's how you make sure, the images weren't showing up that I had been inserting because I've got all these illustrations in there. And it's like, what the heck? I was looking at the file size. We just had to spend a long time figuring out what version of, it's incredibly hard to figure out what version of Windows you're in, or what version of Word. Because every version has a different way to tell, and none of them are just the obvious, like, information about the program you're running. And so we probably spent 20 minutes looking through YouTube videos and articles on it. And, each one is like, well, if you're using Windows 2003 or 2007, it's here. If you're using, through that, then it's over here. And you might be able to tell because the UI looks like this in this version. And, all these articles are like, 5 years old or whatever. And it's like, well, that doesn't... That's infuriating, but I think we got it figured out. So I think we've got a pipeline where we can actually iterate, send each other the documents, keep working on them in a healthy way. We'll see. I had to convince her that she should get a second monitor so she could have the feedback from the beta readers open on one monitor, and then she could do the fixes in the document on the other monitor instead of flipping back and forth constantly. Letha says, it's a little painful, though I think my earlier books are still decent reads. People seem to like them anyway. Okay, good. You're still happy with them, that's good. If I found out after I published the book that most people thought it was a middle grade book for kids, I would be devastated. So the amount of time we've taken in recruiting beta readers, building my platform enough so that, you know, enough people see the things that I'm saying so that people are interested enough to become beta readers, like, all that has been investment that I think will pay off. We shall see. I mean, at the very least, I can vouch that it's paying off artistically. It's going to be a better piece of art as a result of all the time that we spent on it. Now, will it be worth, you know, the bang for your buck? Like, will we sell more as a result of it? No idea. But it will pay off if you actually publish the books. Oh, wait.
Well,
I'm not getting any younger? Honey, Aletha claims I'm not getting younger. I don't understand this.
I think she's probably onto something.
I disagree. I think I'm getting younger every day. I've been Benjamin buttoning.
How do you?
What did that person... recently we were somewhere where someone said they thought that we were in our upper 20s. Oh, it was at Emma's birthday party.
Oh.
Remember, I think it was Kenny's mom. I was like, wait a minute, how old are you people?
Ah.
Because we said we had kids who were full grown.
Oh, yeah.
Aletha says, average, I've heard it takes about 6 years to really get traction and book sales. But I think you will have a really good head start since you are in good position in the art world already and stuff. Yeah, that's my hope. My hope is that track has been laid. Like, all this work has been helping get us a good traction, good I'm just gonna sound stupid, but it's like infrastructure where people know about me. I'm not just some random dude out of the blue with a book. I mean, I still mostly, but you know, I've got 16,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's not nothing. We didn't have that 5 years ago. Aletha, you're not a nobody. You've got people reading your books every single day. That's amazing. Or at least virtually every single day. You are clearly a beloved author, if that's happening. When is the audiobook for Magic is to Be coming out? Gotta finish this epic trilogy. Aletha says, says, well, almost. Definitely a few days a week now. A friend in the film industry asked about making an indie movie of one of my books, but we'll see how that pans out. Unlike the other guy in the past, she does have the drive and resources. Yeah, there's lots of people who are like, I really want to make something. And then they find out making something is hard. And they're like, never mind. And some of those people talk real big words. Like me, for instance. As a scripted alien, I talk lots of big words. However, I do demonstrate that I actively work on this stuff pretty much constantly. So it's not like I'm a big talker who then sits around and just watches season 2 of Castlevania. Which I've heard is really boring. Also, it's anime, so I want to watch it anyway. Magic is to live. The book isn't done yet, but when it is, I'll start it towards being an audiobook. Lolita says, you have the drive to actually finish the project, even if it takes 1,000,000 years. Yep. I'm still feeling pretty good about our April 1st release date. I was not feeling good about it early last week when I got that news from my beta reader, but I think now that we know exactly what the problem is, I think we're going to be able to solve it relatively quickly. Right now the hidden level is in production to be an audiobook. Cool. Looking forward to that one. Lolita says, I would like to see more emotion in your books. There was a lot of physical reaction and physical stuff, but a lot of times then I had to figure out what emotion tied to those physical things. Yep. Yep. I mean, in this last revision, we had someone say that the reaction was too melodramatic, so there's definitely moments of emotion. It's also kind of a tricky thing where, like, ideally, the emotion that characters are experiencing is kind of intuited by the reader based on the description of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So you don't want to spoon feed it. You don't want to say, Beaumark felt sad. You want to say, like, he moved slowly towards the door. His hand was languid on the handle. His eyes downcast. See, now that's getting melodramatic. Letha says, I want to be in the character's head, not guessing. Hey, Van Morta, thanks for the tip. Oh, no, my milk money. Did you spend your milk money on that tip, or are you wanting me to spend that tip on milk? Or do you want me to cry over spilled milk? So Letha, when you are writing a character and you're in their head and you're expressing how they're feeling, how do you go about doing that? Because I don't think I read any like really clunky thing, or when I was listening to your books, I didn't hear any clunky things where it was like, protagonist felt sad about that. How do you do it? Say if your character was sad that their monkey just blew up from a magic chest that was on a beach, what would your character do that would explain to the reader that they're sad? It's a balance between overdoing it or underdoing it, I guess. I need to pay more attention when I'm reading other books. I was pondering that. Like, in Brandon Sanderson's books, even though the protagonist was a 19-year-old boy, I was very connecting and knew what was going on with him because of the way it was written. Well, that's really unspecific. Because of the way it was written. Letha. I started the Mistborn books recently. They're pretty good. I like how it's focused on one main protagonist-ish. I guess two, maybe. The only stuff I've ever read of him before was the Stormlight archives, which are sprawling epics with a cast of like 30. It's always bouncing around between them. And then based on another beta reader friend of mine, I started listening to Green, which is also very interesting. Turns out I like fantasy books. What a surprise. I'm writing fantasy books, and it turns out that I like fantasy books too. So that's cool. I'm really glad audiobooks are a thing, because otherwise I would not get like nearly as much. Maslanitsa. Hey, thanks for following, Matlanitsa. So the first Mistborn book so far, that as I've read it, centers on a girl who starts as like a street urchin type, caught up in criminal gangs, and a big surprise, a spoiler alert, turns out she's got magic powers, you guys. Turns out she's got magic powers. And but the way she was raised, she's very suspicious of everyone because she's been used and abused as a street urchin. And so I think he does a good job of like keeping that consistent as like a core part of her personality is her being suspicious and always expecting the worst of people. And so from her perspective, she's always kind of concocting backup plans, like how do I get out of this if this goes wrong, or more often she's saying when this goes wrong, what do I do? I thought that was a neat kind of character trick and really helped you stay in her head and like empathize with her. AJ says, not a masterpiece. Rhinan's stomach clenched. Her eyes fluttered, trying to clear a sudden onset of tears as grief tore at her soul. No, not lilac. She stumbled from the tent, fumbling as she threw the flap aside. She needed air. She needed to breathe. It felt as if the world was closing in on her, suffocating. She fell to her knees as despair took the strength from her legs. Okay, so that's an example of being in the character's head and knowing exactly what they're feeling. Yeah, that's a huge weakness of mine because when I read that kind of stuff, my eyes kind of glaze over. And maybe that's because I don't... No, that theory's bad. I'm not going to say that. Why did my eyes glaze over? I guess I just take it as a given, like this bad horrible thing happened to someone you love or care about or something, or you're playing blah blah blah. Like, yeah, of course they're upset and it's bad. I don't feel the need to explicate that. Which just, I mean, it just makes me a bad storyteller. Like the fact that I feel no desire to do that. I think I'm going to be a good director visually, and I think those kind of things are going to be like really important for the actors to convey. That's like in a visual medium, that's the actor's job, right? Is to make sure that the audience, that's clear for the audience. When it comes to writing it, it's like, I don't know. It's just not what I care about. So naturally, when I write, that comes across. And that's why I need beta readers to say, hey, you're just talking a bunch of like physical stuff that I really don't care about. I care about characters. And I'm like, oh yeah, because you're a human and humans care about characters. I need to be reminded of that. My mom's a lot better at remembering that and making sure to write it in. But I would say that's probably still a bit of a weakness on her part too. Not nearly as bad as it is with me. Aletha says, I go a little overkill, but that's what editing is for. Yep. Aletha said, like, rereading that, I'd take out the she needed to breathe, because it essentially repeated the sentence before it. I would want to, like, try to be more artistic with it and be like, the air was too thick to inhale or something, like. But again, like, at what point does that become melodramatic or, like, weird, non sequitur feeling? Like, there's tropes about how you write feelings. tropes and cliches and stuff, and there's a certain amount of that you want to lean on and a certain amount you want to avoid, and I think that's just where the skill from practice comes in. But again, I speak as a dabbler, not a really good writer. Did I get all these nostril details? Doing all these details off in La La Land where no one's going to notice. I need to make sure if I'm spending time on details, it's near the center of the piece. No fiddling, yep. I need to continually remind myself, hey, back out and look at what you're doing and see, is this worth my time? There are some areas where it is, and somewhere, like, I could just probably doodle on this for another, like, 5 weeks if I let myself. And I need to say, nope, you shall not. It shall not be perfect, and that is okay. Art is never finished, only abandoned. $76. You're not too late. You're just in time to see me do the same thing I've been doing for the last 2 hours. Hey, Sandra Henson 11. Thanks for subscribing. Welcome to the channel. It says I seem to use the emotion almost as a word that does a thing to someone, like it's active. Grief tore at her soul. Despair took the strength out of her leg. But I don't know if I always do that. I barely remember anything. I turned 40, you see, so my mind is slipping. And I can't remember offhand what other authors do. Mostly I read other books and hope to become more awesome by osmosis without actually examining it. You know, fair. Awful lot of artists work that way. Yeah, the emotions like assaulting you, acting upon you. I wonder if that is like one of the markers of melodrama, or if it is like legitimately how all great authors do it. Yeah, I should look into that. I'm curious. Guessing that there's genre conventions for that. My guess is that in like romance, it's probably really big in romance. That you're swept off your feet, sort of thing. I know that historically, before the not related to the romance genre, but the romance movement in art and aesthetics in general. The idea of romantic love was seen as like a sickness that takes you, and it was perceived by most people as like a bad thing that's happening to you because you can't control it. It makes you make bad decisions. And so the idea of like the courtly love, you know, and relationships based on the felt attraction you have for a person as opposed to a financial transaction or, you know, political alliance, blah blah blah. At least among the nobility, the people who wrote stuff back in the day. That was a kind of a big shift that occurred. Her heart swelled and warmth tinkled through her veins. Ooh. I mean, it sounds like she's having a heart attack? Or maybe she's in love. I'm not sure which. Generally, you should seek medical attention if your heart is swelling. Just saying. Heart attack and love, same thing. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, getting noodly again. Let's back off.
I just accidentally dropped this again. And it
doesn't work.
Can you show me what you did?
You need to stop dropping your flashlights. That's the secret.
It dropped like
an inch?
A foot maybe.
Oh, look at this paper in here. I think that might have been blocking the...
Oh. That could make sense to why this is like the worst.
No.
Least resilient.
That is not the answer. Huh. No. There's another one right there.
I know, but these were Costco.
Yeah, you would expect better from Costco, wouldn't you?
You might just need to return them. This is ridiculous. They'll take anything back if they sell it without...
Yeah.
Well, I mean, plus we have our card, but still. This is stupid. Is this part not coming out?
else standing out to me? I'll leave this as I like the idea of marrying for money and Frisians. Well, you would do really well in medieval times, I suppose. Oh, blending, alright. It's not the most smoothest transition. Let's fix that up real quick.
Just the other one. This one still works. Maybe that one's faulty.
Yeah, might just have a loose wire. You gonna fix it by throwing it around?
Still works. No, I'm just saying, I'm testing out the other one.
Oh, okay. You need to work at a product testing lab. You're good at throwing stuff around.
Okay, the other two are fine. But we paid for 3.
Yeah, we did. I thought a boyfriend might be nice sometimes, but my job doesn't really allow for that. Unless they're like going on trail rides for dates. That's about the only way that would work. You know? Yeah, you just need to find a stable hand. Just do all the romance genre cliches. Fawn boy. Fetch me that picture. As you wish. You don't want the romance part, you just want the riding around on horses with them part. That makes sense. This transition from soft scales to bumpies is maybe a little harsh. Is that harsh in here? Yeah, I think this needs one more. Little scale bumpy here. Let's see if I can find it. Not in there. It would help if I had this tool actually selected. feeling more natural now. Letha says, riding horses on the beach with the sunset in the background. That might work. Alright. I'll see if I can find you that dude to do that with you. Just keep an eye out every time I'm on the beach in the sunset. And if I find one, I'll just lasso him and bring him to you. Missed a spot back here. Yeah, it might surprise him, Letha. I mean, the most surprising thing would be me remembering to have a lasso at all times whenever I'm on the beach. That sounds hard. I guess if I don't have a lasso on me, I could do the Red Dead Redemption thing and just pretend to be a damsel in distress. And then when he gets off his horse, I'll clonk him over the head, drag him away. And then he'll wake up tied in the barn, and you'll be there like, all right, you ready to ride? Also, do you have any Frisians? Letha says you should definitely reshoot that scene so my horses can be in your video. Man, if we could find a place where we can shoot them that is, well, I don't want to shoot your horses, but shoot the scene that has a more Western background. Because when we shot with, was it Ruth's horses back in the day? It was like just like a yard with pine trees behind us. It was not Old West looking at all. And I could go in and like by hand like screen out the background and then put us in an Old Western background, but that would take forever. Doesn't have Frisians, he's not worth keeping. Well, yeah, you could always cut him free if he doesn't. Or should I only kidnap a guy if he happens to be riding a Frisian on the beach? Because that sounds really super rare, considering I'm only on the beach once every like 2 or 3 years. I mean, any place in eastern Washington would work for a backdrop, but I assume transporting horses out there is crazy expensive. Ooh, what's going on here? That got really distorted when I posed his ear. Yikes. How did I not notice that? Ew. That needs a full wipe. What am I doing? Oh, this is all the way down to 3. Make sure I didn't mess up any of the front side. I don't think so. Dottie B says, okay, that's it for me tonight. Headed to see my mom now. Have a great night. You too, Dottie B. Thanks for coming by. Say hi to your mom for me. Yeah, Letha, it doesn't need to be desert westerny, even if it's just like a big plain where you can see into the distance some amount would be nice. Cause then we could like shoot with the camera low and get just sky in the background, and then that's easy to composite stuff into. What was that?
We're organizing the stuff.
We're organizing stuff?
Putting it together. What do we have?
Okay. That does sound fun. Wow, I've got a huge incentive to stop streaming now, guys. I get to organize a closet. these to go too far. Smooth them out a bit as they travel out onto the ear. Turn down the intensity. 7,334 hearts. Holy moly. Wonder who's going to be the first one to reach 100,000. I should probably set up some kind of prize for the first person who reaches it. Of course, then I would have to figure out how to actually give you your birthday points. I think that's fixed. Probably want to reestablish some little bit of folding back here. because presumably this ear flops back and forth. Alright. I think I'm at a point where I'm like, you know what? This is good. I'm ready to call it good. So, next time we'll be doing some technical chop up work. Where we gotta chop his head in half, we gotta chop his hands and probably not his feet off. But just a variety of stuff to make it so we can 3D print, mold, and cast him. I'm also going to need to do a version of just his head for the bust for the cover of book 2. But yeah, that's all kind of ancillary work. I think the primary work is done. I'm happy. I like his expression. I like his pose. I like the way his eyes turned out. He doesn't look too much like a gremlin or Yoda or any of the other 20 popular characters who have very similar proportions. Yeah, feeling good. Feeling good. Time to go organize a closet, you guys. I shall not stream that. Lolita says, can you 3D print a life-size Scolla for me? Oh man, I would love to do that. Hopefully at some point. That's a whole bag of wax. Because that'd be like, I don't know, that big? Can't even see that on my screen. It's so big. I'm going to say he's probably 2.5 feet tall. So that would require probably one of those, I can't remember what they're called, but it's like it carves out foam to make the shape rather than building it up. Although I might be able to use a, at some point I am going to get an extrusion, whatever, 3D printer, so you never know. After the books, though. After the books.
It's a better paying job than Starbucks.
Actually, those printers are not that expensive. They're not as expensive as the resin one that I got.
Well, this one, even if it was just a regular paper printer, I would still use it a better paying job.
Good point. Alright, so, great to see you guys. Go to my Instagram, it's Breath of Life Dev, and follow me there. And I'll see you guys, today's Sunday, so I'll see you guys Wednesday. Bye!